Hello and welcome to everyone. On behalf of RAPS, thank you for joining us today for our live webcast. We're so glad you're here. Our goal today is to provide you with actionable strategies to elevate your LinkedIn presence and job search efforts. Before we start, we'll kick off with a few poll questions that will help steer today's webinar. Robin? All right. Give about 5 more seconds. Perfect. Thank you. Looks like a very good mix of people sharing their job seeker status. Thank you. All right. Question 2 for your career level. How would you describe your position in terms of seniority? Great. Thank you, Robin. Towards the end of the presentation, we will have a live Q&A session where you will have the opportunity to submit questions, and we will do our best to answer as many as possible with the time remaining. As Robin also mentioned, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and not the chat to input any questions that you have. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Elena Kyria. Elena is founder and CEO of Elemed, a global talent and consulting firm specializing in MedTech, diagnostics, and regulatory affairs. She is widely recognized as a LinkedIn top voice and frequently shares career development guidance and insights specifically tailored to regulatory professionals. She brings deep experience in helping professionals in regulatory affairs not only craft strong profiles, but also to navigate the evolving landscape of medical device and diagnostics regulation, and to also utilize platforms like LinkedIn to accelerate their job search. We're so fortunate to have her here with us today to share her expertise. Elena, welcome. We are so excited to have you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Arnold, and welcome everybody. We've had an amazing turnout for today, so I'm really wanting to jump right in and start talking about my favorite topic, which is LinkedIn. So just bear with me for a second. I'm going to just bring up some basic slides, and I'm going to run this a little bit differently to perhaps how you've typically seen webinars. I'm going to be sharing information on slides, but I'm also going to be dipping into a LinkedIn account that I've created. Her name's Margarita Smith. I wanted it to sound exotic. And I'm going to be actually clicking around and showing you as well so that you can actually see some of these things being done in practice. Today is really about talking about LinkedIn specifically for job seekers. So great to see that so many of you are either actively looking or you're kind of casually exploring. I'm going to be giving you some insights on exactly what you can be doing that other people out there are not doing to maximize the platform. So first of all, why me? Why should I be talking about this? Well, I've actually been on LinkedIn for 13 years now, and I remember when LinkedIn was initially just a place where you posted your CV. Now it's much more than that. It's a social networking platform. It's a place where you can get news, insights. It's a place where you can build your professional brand. It's a place where you can get training and development. But still, a big part of LinkedIn is around job search, and there's loads of tools that you can be maximizing within the platform to make sure that you are having the best chance when it comes to looking for your next role. My main job is one of a recruiter and executive career coach, and over the years I've placed over 300 regulatory professionals. I spend all day every day speaking to regulatory professionals and people that hire you guys, and I spend probably about 5 hours a day looking at regulatory LinkedIn profiles. So I'm going to be giving you some insights in terms of like what you need to be doing to capture attention of recruiters. So I'm going to be starting with some theory. I'm going to talk specifically around profile optimization, visibility, and some job search strategies. And we're going to go quite fast on that part. Then I'm going to be giving some live profile feedback. I'm going to be bringing up some people's profiles on the screen and scrolling through as if I would, if I was just looking at someone's profile, and give you just what's in my brain as I'm looking at that profile. And hopefully, if you are one of those people that's been spotlighted, that's going to be giving you one-to-one feedback directly from me. But if not, I'm hoping that you're all going to have the chance to learn from watching the feedback that I give on some of your peers. And then finally, we're going to end with some Q&A to do with LinkedIn or job searching in general. So let's go right into it then when it comes to building the profile. So in the UK, there's this game, it's called Monopoly, and we play it typically at Christmas. It's that kind of game where the family gets together and it usually ends in a big family argument, honestly speaking. Why is that? It's because everybody wants to buy the most expensive, or if you're like my mum, she's very strategic about it. She buys the most expensive part on the Monopoly board. In the UK, that is a place called Mayfair. Now, I like to say that the first third of your LinkedIn profile is the Mayfair of your profile. What do I mean by that? When you go onto someone's LinkedIn profile, the first thing that they see is the first third of the profile. They will decide whether or not to keep reading your profile based on what they see immediately on the first third of your profile. So this is the demo. This is Margarita's profile that I've just created. And in the first section of the profile, it's essentially the banner image, it's the name, it's the strap line, location, and the photo, and perhaps also a little bit of the about section. So let's talk about the profile photo. Here are some examples of what I see all day, every day when I go onto LinkedIn. Here you have the example of the head. This is the person that hasn't managed to crop their profile correctly. We also have people that, like to upload pictures of them with their friends. It's difficult to know actually who is the person who the profile belongs to. So make sure your profile is always just of yourself. This one, sorry to say it, guys, is very typical of men of a certain age that seem to cling to that photo from 20 years ago that actually isn't necessarily representative of what they actually look like today. And this one is the one that I see most commonly in regulatory affairs. And I will bet that there are some people here on this webinar today that have this as their profile. And this is the one that I like to call the enigma, because we don't actually know what you look like or who you are. And this is the default that LinkedIn has when you actually go onto someone's profile, unless you change visibility. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Here's an example of what good looks like. So here we have Emma Walmsley, the CEO of GSK, looking directly at the camera, shoulders up, well lit, smiling. That's what you need to do in terms of your LinkedIn profile. It doesn't need to be a professional headshot. You can take it as a selfie if you angle it right. You can ask your friend to take it of you. You can use portrait mode on iPhone or on your phone if you have it. Or even you can just take a picture using the LinkedIn app directly inside. So if I go into my demo here and I click the photo, you can see there's the possibility to directly use the camera, where you can literally just take a photo, or you can upload a photo, which I am going to do right now just to show you. Here's a photo of me from before. And one thing I want to highlight here, by default, it shows first degree connections only. So you know where I showed you the enigma, which is just the silhouette? If you have this switched on, which is the default, and you do not make this visible to anyone, whenever anyone who is not directly connected to you goes to your LinkedIn profile, all they will see is the silhouette and not your picture. Even if you can see your picture, it doesn't mean everybody else can see it. So this is the one thing that I recommend everybody to make sure and check, that they actually have their profile visible. And then you go ahead and save it. Okay, so save. Okay, let's jump right back into my presentation. The next thing I want to talk about is the banner. So with the banner, the default is going to be just a blank, a grey scale banner. It's a lost opportunity because the banner is eye-catching and it is the thing that people see as soon as they land on your profile. So we need to be maximizing the banner, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. So if I take an example of Jeff Martha, obviously he's the CEO of Medtronic. His one is about talking about the strap line and the vision of the company with a nice, clean, global kind of image in the background. You could do something like that. I've seen people put inspirational quotes, or if you are using LinkedIn more for business development, or you're an owner of a company, or there's just something you're really passionate about, you could actually you could design your banner image to include text or to include information, not just a photo. A really good website to do this is on Canva, C-A-N-V-A, or you can use Pexels as a place to download royalty-free images. So if we go into Margarita's one, here is one that I made earlier. It's very simple, designed on Canva, where I just basically uploaded a picture of a mountain and a very common business quote by Henry Ford. Okay. The next thing is the headline. The headline is really, really, really important. I can't stress how important the headline is, because when you're in LinkedIn and you're scrolling through the feed, the one thing that you will see of people, whether or not you're connected to them. So like, for example, this guy is promoted. I don't know who he is, but the only thing I can see is his name, his picture, and his headline. So this is where you can really start to hack what information people can see, even if they're not connected to you. So what do you want people to know when they scroll past your profile? That's essentially what your headline does. So by default, it will put in your job title, but you need to edit that. So there's a couple of different formulas you can use. The first one is I help, oops, sorry guys. The first one is I help X achieve Y through Z, right? So you're speaking directly to your audience and you're talking about how you help them. So for Margarita's one, I actually created an example, which was I help companies achieve global approvals by aligning regulatory strategy with business goals. So that's that formula of I help X achieve Y through Z. The other option that you have is to just really bump it up with keywords so that at a glance people know exactly what you do. And you can do that by putting in your title, your functional area, some key skills, perhaps the company you work for. Now, this is really, really good for SEO. So what I mean by SEO is ranking. The more keywords that are on your profile, the more you are telling LinkedIn that your profile is important for those specific keywords that you include. The more times those keywords are on your profile and the higher up they are on your profile, the more you tell LinkedIn that these are even more important. So by putting something high up in your headline, you're telling LinkedIn, for example, 510K submissions, you're telling LinkedIn, I have a real expertise in 510Ks because that's really in my headline, as opposed to just being lower down in the body of my experience. So that's a personal preference in terms of how you want to do it. Let's talk about your about section. So the about section is the section here on your profile. Now, the about section is essentially the answer to the question, tell me a little bit about yourself. So imagine you go to an interview and somebody says to you, tell me about yourself. That's the kind of information that you want to include in your about section. The way that I like to think about it is like a book. So imagine you go into a store, you're going to buy a book. You're choosing which books you're going to buy. Where do you look? Typically, it's the back of the book. The back of the book gives the high level summary and it pulls together the narrative, but it doesn't tell you from start to end the story. It's designed to capture your interest as a potential reader and to get you to buy the book and want to read the story. The about section is that for your LinkedIn profile. So here's an example. Really important is that you talk from first person out to the world. So sometimes I've seen LinkedIn profiles where it's like written in third person as if I don't somebody like an author has written it on behalf of the person whose profile it is. LinkedIn is supposed to be your voice out to the world. So make sure you're writing that in first person, me, I, out to the world. And showcase your personality. So I'm quite a bubbly person, I like to do different things. So that comes through in, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, Elena Kyria, I like to showcase that. I've got a few emojis in there, right? A little bit cheeky, but that's very much my personality. So don't be afraid. It doesn't need to feel super corporate. It needs to feel authentically you. That's the about section. The next piece is the experience section. So the experience section is after the about section. It's down here. Now, key things to know about the experience section. The experience section is what do you do, but also how well do you do what do you do? And in order to know how well you do what you do, you need to talk about results. There are some people that will tell you that you should only talk about results on your LinkedIn profile. I'm going to say to you, you need to talk about responsibilities as well, especially when it comes to job seeking. Why? The way that the algorithm works in the back end of LinkedIn is that LinkedIn will be scanning your profile for certain keywords based on keywords that are in jobs that are posted. So LinkedIn is going to look for keywords that are in jobs, and then it's going to say, show me the profiles that have also those keywords. So if you don't have keywords that are talking about things like doing PMAs or 510Ks, de novos, if you're not talking about the product classifications, if you're not talking about ISO standards or MDSAP, for example, these regulatory is one of those jobs that have so many keywords and acronyms, which is great, but make sure you're putting them in there, because if you're not putting them in there, you're not going to be ranking. When I say ranking, what I mean by that is LinkedIn will be pushing those profiles. So as a recruiter in the back end, in my special version of LinkedIn that I can have, LinkedIn will be saying to me, these are the profiles we recommend you prioritize based on suitability. LinkedIn will assess suitability based on the keywords that are visible in the profile and the skills. So if you're only talking about achievements, you see here, these are some achievements, and you're missing the actual description of what the role was that you were doing, you're not going to rank as high when it comes to job search. So it's something to be thinking about. Another thing as well that's really important for ranking is this section here in the skills. So let me just show you where the skills live. Two places. Skills live in the about section. So when you hit edit on your about section, you see skills here. And in your about section, you can have 5 skills. It's really important that you're intentional with the skills you select. LinkedIn might suggest to you, hey, why don't you put communication as a skill? The truth is that no recruiter is going to go onto LinkedIn and search communication as a skill to filter down the list of candidates that they have. They're going to filter that list down by things like languages, by things like standards, by things like product class, countries, geographies, but they're not going to say, I want to prioritize people that have communication as a skill on their profile. So that's a wasted use of one of these super limited options that you have. So it's important that you're intentional with what you select in terms of the skills. You also have the chance to put skills per role, which is lower down. So if you're moving through different companies and maybe one of your roles is more country focused, another one of your roles is a little bit more regulatory, but you're supporting product development, maybe those are different skills that you want to showcase, you can select them here in the experience section when you hit edit in the job down here. Skills is becoming more and more and more important because LinkedIn is forcing recruiters to use drop downs when they're building their searches. So the more that you are selecting from drop downs, also for your job title, that's really important. So in your role, if you have a really unique job title, I would suggest you choose the option that LinkedIn gives you if you're looking for a job. Because LinkedIn is going to be looking for, okay, these roles have this job title, these candidates have that job title. Now we recommend, recruiter, we recommend you to look at these candidates that we've selected for you. If your current job title has loads of acronyms in it and is like really detailed and specific, and you might be the only one in your company with that title, you're not going to rank very well when it comes to actually your job search. Okay. Couple of other ideas because I want to move quickly on to the next bit. Languages are really important. If you speak languages, you must select them from the drop down in the language section on your profile. Qualifications are also really good. So if you have the RAC, please put that on your profile. And then also there's a new thing called featured section. The featured section allows you to pin important things to your profile. So that's really good if you have a portfolio, if you have a certificate, if you are creating content, if you are on a podcast, if you spoke at an event, you can pin it to your profile in the featured section and it lives there forever. It adds credibility to your profile. So that's definitely something, if you want to take it to the next level, that you look at doing. Okay. Increasing visibility. So I spoke a little bit about this when we started, but the most important thing, and this is the thing that people just don't do, is spend time looking at the visibility settings. So if I have one thing, recommendation for you to do, it's this. Go onto your LinkedIn profile, click view profile. On the right-hand side, you're going to see public profile and URL. And you can see by default, the URL is messy. And I bet your URL is also really, really messy. Did you know that if you hit edit, you can actually clean up your URL? I did it, so it's not going to allow me to edit it right now. Oh, here it is. So I can make it Margarita Smith, RA. Let's just say there's probably a lot of Margarita Smiths out there. So I'm going to hit save. And now it's going to give me a much cleaner URL without all the numbers, which I can put in places. Um, the next piece, now this is really important. Public profile visibility. At the moment, it says basic. So what does that mean? This shows me if somebody who I'm not connected to, who doesn't know me, searches my name, this is what they are going to see when they navigate to my profile. But wait a minute, I have a really nice banner image. I've got a really nice headline. I've got a really nice photo. Why can't people see that? That's because the visibility settings are not turned on correctly. So what you want to do is turn it to public. This allows all LinkedIn members on or off of LinkedIn to be able to see your profile. If you are job searching, I recommend that you switch all these things on. Ultimately, you can still control what is on your profile, right? So don't put anything on your profile that you wouldn't want people to see. At a minimum, if you don't want the details, you can still have your background photo, your headline, your summary, but maybe you don't want to have your experience, and you might want to turn those off. But you see now the difference. And so playing about with this setting will show you what other people can see. And that's really worth spending some time doing, because it's such a shame that people do all this great work on their LinkedIn profile and then nobody can see it. So make sure that you spend time doing that. Okay, moving on, skills and keywords. I've already spoken about this. Make sure you select skills from the drop down and maximize as many as you can, but be intentional with the ones you select. And finally, let's talk a little bit about open to work status. When you go onto your profile, you can select open to finding a new job. You have two options. Option number one is going to be to tell recruiters, only recruiters, that you're looking for a job. This is a covert passive job search. This doesn't tell the whole world that you're looking for a job, but recruiters have a specific filter in their version of LinkedIn where they can look and they can see, I want to filter by people that are considering opportunities. If you select all LinkedIn members, it's going to put this green banner around your profile picture, and it tells the whole world that you're looking for a job. Now, it's a personal preference in terms of what you do. From a recruiter perspective, in the back end, it doesn't really change what we see. So if you look here, this is an example of what LinkedIn Recruiter looks like for recruiters. There's a section where we can filter by open to work. In that open to work bucket are people that have the green banner and people that have selected only recruiters. So if you want everybody to know that you're looking for a job, you can select the green banner, but there are some people now that might find that if they're receiving a message from somebody in their inbox, and it's got a green banner, immediately they think that is like a message about, can you help me find a job? When it might not be. It might be like a business conversation or a meeting or something like that. So people will come to your profile with a slight bit of bias if they see that green profile ring. So it's up to you in terms of whether or not you want to have that visible or not. When you go and you select your open to work status, my advice is always to select in terms of job titles, one level up and one level down, and to be broad. So I'm going to say regulatory affairs, and I'm going to select all the different versions. Why? Because if I don't have all the versions selected, if a company is hiring a regulatory affairs manager instead of a manager of global regulatory affairs, I'm not going to rank. I'm not going to come up in that search because I don't have that filter selected. So here, it's better to be broader and then narrow down as you get requests coming in, rather than being too selective and then trying to open it up. Okay. What else do I want to share with you guys? Okay, here are some other ideas that you can do. You can comment on influencer posts. So are there specific people in your industry that have a really big following that you want to kind of piggyback on their reach? If so, you can follow them and be the first people to appear in their comments so that their followers can actually see your profile. Secondly, join large groups, especially if you only have a small network, because LinkedIn will limit you in terms of what you can do past your second and third degree, right? So if you only have like 200 or 300 connections and you want to connect with someone and you don't have a mutual in between, LinkedIn will limit your ability to outreach to them. So if you join large groups, so for example, I run an MDR group, there's 13,000 people in that group. If you're part of that group, immediately 13,000 people are your second degree connections. If you're connected with me, I have also quite a large number of connections. So my connections become your second degree connections. So it amplifies your network just by being strategic in terms of who you connect with. Finally, I just want to take a little second to show you in terms of things that you can do when it comes to your setting up alerts and searching. So I'm going to take a second to jump in here to show you how to set up a job alert. You're going to hit jobs. You're going to go in here and you're going to type in regulatory affairs. That's going to show me all jobs. For some reason, it thinks I'm in the Netherlands, but I'm not. But let's just say the US for now. I'm now going to play with the filters until I'm happy with what I can see with the results. So I'm going to say I only want to target like mid to senior roles. I'm going to filter out all the junior stuff. So to filter them out, I don't select them and I do select what I want to see. So I'm going to say mid director, show results. So now I'm saying show me all the roles that have regulatory affairs in the title that are mid-level, that are posted in the UK. I don't recommend you add a filter for salary at this stage because not all companies post salary. You can say, I want to see everything that was posted in the past 24 hours. What you can then do is save that alert. When you save that, what that means is as soon as something hits that criteria, it will send you an email notification. So that means that every time a new job is posted, you will get an email notification. Why is that good? Because companies look closely at the first candidates to apply, and it will allow you to be notified as soon as a role is live and be within the first few applicants, as opposed to kind of like after 100. You can also turn off, so you can also say sort of like past month if you wanted to as well. Other things that I can also recommend. There might be a company that you're really interested in joining. So you can actually go in here and say, I want to be notified of all the regulatory roles at, for example, Striker, let's say. Striker haven't posted anything in the past 24 hours, so maybe I want to now like broaden out that search. So you need to kind of play a little bit with your searches to see what comes up. And here I'm not seeing anything really come up. So this isn't a great search for me to run right now. I'm not going to go ahead and save that one. So if we were to say, okay, let's just remove Striker for a second. I'm now going to show you how to go ahead and apply to a job is really quite simple. But what a lot of people don't do is outreach directly to the recruiter. So let me just 1 second, guys. Let's do this. Elemed. Let me just broaden out my search a little bit. Okay. So here's a role that we're recruiting for at Elemed. So you can go ahead and hit easy apply, upload your profile and apply. But also then what you can do is see, okay, here I can see that Frankie's actually the recruiter. So let me not only apply, but let me actually reach out with a personalized message to Frankie. So what a lot of people will do is they'll just hit connect, but they won't add a note. It's really important you add a note when you do a connection request because otherwise people won't necessarily accept it. So you can add a note here and you can write whatever you want, but make it feel personal and one-to-one and not just, hey, I applied for that role, please review my profile. But maybe I saw that job was posted a month ago. how's the search going? I can see there's been over 100 applicants. You can actually see that, So if a company is advertising a role, but there's been over 100 applicants, they're still missing something if the role's still being open. So don't be afraid if you see a lot of applicants. You can still go ahead and apply, but try to connect with the recruiter responsible. So that's one hack around job search. The other thing that you can do is try to tap into roles that are not advertised on LinkedIn. And to do that, you need to network intentionally. So in order to bring up a list of people that you want to network with, you go to the search, you hit enter. Now you go to people. Okay. Now you can use the filter. So you might say, I want to see people. So if I hit all filters, I might say, right, I want to see people that work at Medtronic. I want to see people that are like leaders in Medtronic. And so in the title section here, I might say regulatory and director. So this is saying, hey, show me all the people that work at Medtronic who have regulatory and director in their job title that are based globally. I might then want to say, I want to see the ones that are based in the US because that's where I'm based. And now I have a list of people that I'm not connected with. Now, what some people might do is just go ahead and hit connect, 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 connect. But actually, what I would recommend you do is be intentional. So maybe Fatima is someone that I want to be on her radar. Maybe what I'm going to do, I'm not going to connect straight away. I'm going to follow her. I'm going to comment on some of her posts so she starts to see me interacting with her profile. And after a while, then I'm going to connect with her. And I'm going to connect with a note that is not just, hey, will you hire me? But hey, I saw you posted this thing that was really interesting. I'd love to connect so I can, be more engaged with some of the other stuff that you're posting. And so you can start to build a more strategic dialogue with people that you want to be on their radar for. So that's a little hack there. So I'm just going to skip past these slides because we have just spoken about those. So set alert. The other recommendation I have for you finally as well is to follow your target companies because LinkedIn will push people who apply to their jobs. You can filter by people that are warm with our company brand, right? And if someone is warm with your company brand, it means they're a follower of your company. So I would suggest then that if there are certain companies like Medtronic, I know that I'm using Medtronic over and over again today, but let's go ahead and make sure you're following the companies that you are interested in before you apply for their jobs. Because that way as well, you will rank better when the recruiters are going through and screening through all the applications that they get. Okay, so the final thing that I want to share with you is there's a lot of information here. We have a LinkedIn profile optimization cheat sheet that if you scan this QR code, you can download it from our website. So please go ahead and do that to make sure that you get this in a written format and you can kind of work through it. And I'm now going to jump into doing some LinkedIn profile reviews live for the last 10 minutes. So who do we have? Sorry, I have just 1 second. Arnold, am I still here?
Yep, you're still here.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to now just fly through as many as I can and share feedback for the last 10 minutes on profiles. So the first one, Mira, really nice, interesting background image. It tells me you're a coffee lover, but you are an enigma. I cannot see who you are, what you or what you look like. So I'm missing that personal connection when I go to your profile. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I don't know what your second name is. And that's important. And again, I feel like this is a visibility issue, like in the settings, where maybe you've got show my surname only to people that I'm connected with. Now, if somebody goes onto LinkedIn and they search your full name, so let's say you apply for a job, they get your CV, and now from looking at your CV, they go into LinkedIn and they type your full name into the search bar, you won't come up because your full name is not here on LinkedIn. So definitely have a look at changing that setting. The headline, I would suggest maybe adding a little bit more into your headline as we spoke about earlier. So The about section is good in terms of structure because you've broken it out. So on mobile, that's going to be easiest to digest. I'm missing your personality. I'm missing who you are and your message to the world. So in your about section, I would think about maybe just bringing your voice into this conversation a little bit more, rather than just what you have here is kind of like high level bullet points. I'm also missing details around what you do in your role. So here's where I would really spend some time. And for all the reasons that I explained before, for ranking, for visibility, to make sure that LinkedIn is pushing your profile to the top of the search in the recruiter lists. Make sure you're including key skills, make sure you're including keywords, and talk actually about what your role involves, especially because some of these companies are really big organizations. So it's good to actually be able to talk about, are you attached to a certain business unit or are you in a regional role, and what does your role actually cover? So my recommendation would be to build out a little bit more here. Thank you, Mira. Let's move on. Sarah. Okay, so really nice, colourful background image. Nice headshot, smiling, looking at the camera. You're a doctoral researcher at UCL, PhD in clinical trials. What are you researching? Do you have a specific discipline or specific area of expertise? If so, maybe look to build out your headline a little bit more with some of those keywords. Another thing, and this is an important one, your location says Switzerland, but it doesn't say the city. Now, as a recruiter, when I run a search, I can run a thing called a radius search. So I can say, show me people who are within 20 miles of this specific city. I can't see a city on there. So that makes me wonder, if I were to run a radius search in the back end, if you don't have a city selected, you may not show up in the radius. And I see this often with people that are based in the US, where their location is just US. It's very important to make sure you've got the city on your profile. You've got contact info visible. Okay. There's no contact info there, but that's okay. And so, Sarah, your profile is an example of one where it's almost like somebody's talking about you on your about section, but really we want that to be your voice, me, out to the audience. It's great that you've got your top skills here. That's really, really nice. And here's an example of a featured post. So it's great that you've like featured some pieces. It shows me that you're actively using LinkedIn. Doctoral researcher, I'd love to just know a little bit more about what you're researching, right? Like it sounds like you're doing some really important work, but I'm missing kind of like actually what is your area of focus and what is it that you're developing here. But it's really good that you do have some skills selected. So here I would say build out a little bit more your profile. And you've got your languages. Okay, great. Thanks, Sarah. Let's keep going. Elena Casella. Okay, really nice, clean profile picture, smiling, looking at the camera. Nice visual on the background. You've got biomedical engineering PhD, medical writer, cross-functional communicator. Okay, I don't know what a cross-functional communicator is or what that means. Is there a way to quantify that a little bit more? Do you have some keywords that are more linked to medical writing? So as an example, do you write clinical evaluation reports? If so, let's use that. Let's put that in your headline if that's something that you have a lot of experience doing. As recruiters, we're all the time looking for CER writers, and often in clinical or in medical, therapeutic area really matters. So if you have a specific therapeutic area focus, like cardio, make sure that that's mentioned on there. Or is it orthopedics? Make sure that that's mentioned on there as well. Tissue engineering research experience. So if tissue engineering is your area of expertise, let's include that up into the headline as well. I'd look to just build out your about section a little bit more. Like we saw earlier, medical writer 1 and medical writer 2, what does that actually mean? It means something in your company, but what is it? But it's not clear for the outside world of what's the difference between a 1 and a 2. Is it scope? Is it responsibility? Is it just a title difference, but the job itself is the same? I really would suggest that you build that out a little bit more and add some skills that are linked into this, especially for a function like medical writing, because the skills could be really, really powerful. Tasneem. Okay, Tasneem. My first comment is banner image. My second comment is who are you? I would definitely want to put a profile picture on there to build credibility. You also have the open to work banner. So that tells me that you're looking for a job. I don't know what your surname is. So if you applied for a job and I tried to search you on LinkedIn, I wouldn't find you. Um, Regulator for special 4 years of experience, pharma medical devices, skilled in global submissions, lifecycle management. Okay, great. You speak about also hands-on experience in Viva Vault, change control assessments. Great. So you do have some of your keywords in there. I would look to just build that out a little bit more. So if you're talking about pharma and med devices, in med devices, I'm always interested, and the same for pharma, is around like product type experience and specific regulatory experience. So specific regulatory pathways, countries, like if we're talking about the US, have you written 510Ks? Have you done PMAs? Do you have experience with de novos? So really go into like the specific technical acronyms. Make sure that that's coming up onto your profile so that we can search for them. Global regulatory affairs. So this is an example of, this is a job title, one perhaps that you've typed in, but it's missing what I would call a seniority level. And so I would go in and say that you should maybe think about selecting from the LinkedIn dropdown, because global regulatory affairs, what? Global regulatory affairs specialist, manager, director, VP. When I'm running a search, I'm going to be searching for regulatory affairs something. And because you don't have the something in your profile, you will not rank in any searches. The other thing is really, you've been there for 3 years and 3 months. What do you do? What is global regulatory affairs in the context of Alcon? Let's add a little bit more detail on that. I hope that's been helpful. I'm going to do one more, and then Arnold, I think we should jump into the Q&A, right?
Yep, you beat me to it.
Francesca. Okay, so Francesca, my first comment will be background image. The second one would be headline, right? As we've seen earlier on. Um, so Okay, so really good that you're talking about like it's your voice out to the world. This is more about, you're kind of talking a little bit about kind of like why you have studied a regulatory and clinical course, and you want it to give your career a new direction. It's good, but think more about how many years of experience do you have, doing what, where, what are your core areas of expertise, and what's fulfilling for you, and also tell me a random fact, right? So it's really that kind of elevator pitch, high level overview in your about section. So for example, I'm just going to spitball, right? Francesca, so I would say something like, I'm Italian, speaking Italian and English, 4 years of experience in regulatory affairs, working at Artivian. So these are the types of products, having also responsibility for both clinical and regulatory. So I would say in your about section, maybe 4 years of experience across both clinical and regulatory affairs, multilingual, and experience working with these types of products. In my spare time, I also like to, cook, and I'm a foodie, so something a bit different about who you are as well, that you're happy to share with the world. You've got your languages on there as well. That's really good. Okay, so you've got 4 languages, so really good. So I hope that was helpful. Arnold, now I'm going to stop sharing and hit me with the Q&A. What can I
Thank,
say?
thank you so much. That was extremely insightful and very practical for most, I think, on this call. For the Q&A, I'll try my best to bounce around between the Q&A box. I know some were entered in the chat, but if you would like to include more questions, please do use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. First question here. I am a consultant within QA at the moment. For me, due to some confidential projects, I cannot fully update some assignments in my LinkedIn profile. Oop, just jumped. Give me one moment. How do you suggest the best way to handle this for those who have small and confidential assignments in a more professional way? And also, if I want to transition into regulatory affairs, for instance, from quality, how do you suggest for a smooth transition?
Okay. So if you're a consultant, there's a couple of different things. Do you work for a consultancy, or are you your own consultant with your own company? if you're working for a consultancy, you can definitely still put relevant information on your LinkedIn profile. You don't need to talk about specifics, right? You need to talk more generally. So saying something like, you know, experienced running large scale remediation projects for global multinationals, right? That's specific enough that you're talking about remediation, but general enough that you're not specifically pointing at a specific company or a specific project that you're working on, right? So try to raise it up one level and take one step back. You don't need to give the details of the project, but the theme of what is the project type of projects that you work on. And then if it's your own company, I would say something similar. So you could do something like, um, consultant for quality, experienced dealing with these types of problems for companies. And then you could do a bullet point list of like, what are all the projects that you've worked on at a high level? It might be remediation, it might be quality system management implementation, it might be, so these are the kind of things that we want to see on the profile, not necessarily the case studies, right? So I hope that that's helpful. And then if we're talking about transitioning from RA to QA, I would start to look for opportunities or projects where you are perhaps working in, you're doing something in a smaller company where regulatory and quality is a little bit more blended, and you can start wearing both hats in those type of projects. So I always say to everybody about when it comes to transition, try to make the transition internally first and try to cross leverage into that, get the exposure, then to just look for a new job doing something that you've never done before. Companies will not hire people that have never done something before if they have the chance to hire someone that has done it before. But companies are very likely to take a chance on someone that they already know, that knows their culture, their systems, their processes. So you're always going to have a better chance to try to build that transition internally first if you can.
Great, thank you. Maybe a good segue into the next question here. You mentioned to emphasize results, but as you know, in reality, quite a few projects end up dissolved or do not achieve the intended results due to other factors that are outside of my capability. How would you still suggest to formulate this?
Mm-hmm. So I would say focus on the results that are within your control, right? So, for example, if a project gets dissolved, what did you do that led up to that project that was in your control? So, for example, let's say, or even, like if it was a submission, right? Like, is there anything in the way that the submission was done? The time scale, like did you project manage something? Did you come up with like an innovative way of doing something or solving a specific problem? Were you able to handle a difficult interaction with the FDA? Were you able to rationalize a portfolio, therefore saving the company costs? So it's really about trying to find the angle, and thinking about, okay, well, what was within your control and what are you actually proud of, like within that, and try to focus on talking about that.
Great, thank you. Next question we have, what if I want to look for a job, but I do not want my current employer to find out? Would recruiters still approach someone if they did not have that marked on their LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. So when you select open to work, there's two options. One is recruiters only, and one is like the whole world. If you want to look for a job, but you don't want your current company to know, select recruiters only. LinkedIn, they have a caveat where they say, like, we can't guarantee, but LinkedIn does try to hide that status from any recruiters that are attached to your current company as well. So they shouldn't see that. And therefore, it's only recruiters or people that have RPS version of LinkedIn that will see that. So you can totally do that. And that's what most people are doing, honestly, right now.
Great. We have a few upvotes for this next question. Is there any advantage to having LinkedIn Premium, or can your job search still be fruitful with the basic account?
So LinkedIn Premium does have some additional features, and if you are really active in your search and you're finding that with normal linkedin.com you're not getting the results that you want to, you could consider LinkedIn Premium. There is a free trial for a month that maybe you want to use to set up your profile, and then sign up for rolling monthly and then cancel after a couple of months. LinkedIn Premium does give you a couple of things. Number one, there's an AI that will help you write your profile. And anything that LinkedIn is suggesting for you to do, my recommendation is always do it, because LinkedIn prioritizes people that use LinkedIn the way it's intended to be used, which is why I'm saying use the drop downs, use the filters. If it suggests for you to write your profile in a certain way with its own AI, use that. The other thing it will give you is more in-mails. So it will give you more messages to people that you're not connected to. And it will also give you more invitations to connect with people. So if you are thinking about investing in it, it's worthwhile doing, and then maybe just canceling the subscription after a few months. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Next question we have, do you recommend applying to jobs via LinkedIn or going to each company's own career page on the website and applying there?
So both. So LinkedIn is great because LinkedIn has made it really easy to apply. But what it has created is a situation in which it is overwhelming. It is truly overwhelming just to manage the sheer volume of applications that are coming in. So I would always say, more won't hurt you, right? It's going to be harder for them to manage on their side, but it increases your chances, because also you don't know how things are being managed. So it might be that they have an intern managing their LinkedIn applications, but on the company website, it might be that the line manager actually has visibility on that. It might be that the intern has visibility on their own website, but the line manager, is really active on LinkedIn and is looking at things that come into their DM. So I would even recommend trying to reach out to who, if you can see who's posted the role, also doing a personal outreach as well as the applications to really make sure your things are being seen.
Okay, thank you. Next question we have, I am a regulatory affairs student in the first semester of a year-long program. Do you have any suggestions for someone like myself who is a student or very early into their career looking for their first regulatory affairs job?
Yeah. My recommendation to you right now, knowing how LinkedIn is going, is to get really active on LinkedIn. You're probably of the generation where you've grown up with social media. So probably, this is going to feel second nature to you already. Start posting about things that you're learning, things that you're seeing, key takeaways, because it will start to create a little bit of a personal brand for you. Then when you and that will start to get noticed by employers, right? And so then when you are reaching out for that first job or that first internship, or just a line manager that you really are following and really respect, and it's like, hey, I'm looking for a chance, you will have a huge amount of credibility already behind your profile. If they look at your profile and they can see that you've done loads of posts about what you've learned, you clearly are ambitious, you clearly know your stuff, and you've got really high engagement. So I would start doing that right now.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for a few more questions. How many years back should you include descriptions of your job roles in the experience section? I've recently heard to only do your past 3 roles only.
I don't think it hurts to add earlier roles, honestly. Companies will probably only look at your past 3 roles, but there are certain people, and it's all personal preference still with job search, right? But there are certain hiring managers, there are certain people that will look specifically at profiles, and then they will look for gaps. So they will look for incongruences. And so they might say, like, okay, but what did this person do from this time to this time? And there's a gap missing between their education and here. So just for consistency, you can, but what you might want to do is just like not build it out in detail, right? You might just want to have like the title with, a couple of sentences. So yeah.
Great. And I think that is a nice segue to our next question, which also has a few upvotes on it. This might be our last question here, but do you have any suggestions for women that are re-entering the workforce after taking some time off to raise children?
That's a really big question. Um, I do I have any suggestions for women re-entering the workforce after having children? Yes. The first thing I would say is this is where I think use LinkedIn from an information perspective, right? Join groups and follow people to try to first of all immerse yourself in actually what is going on in the industry. I literally just came back from being a year on maternity leave myself, and it's like you come back to a different world. So first of all, it's like try to understand what's going on. And then if you're really re-entering the workforce completely brand new, start looking at what our employers going to be hiring in the future. And I can tell you right now, in terms of regulatory affairs, they're going to be looking for regulatory people that know how to use technology and know how to use AI in workflows. So start, if you've got nothing else that you're focusing on, start building that muscle right now, because that is where the industry is going and that is what companies are looking for. And people that are in their day jobs from, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, they're not having the time to really start building that. So you can already start to differentiate, invest in time in yourself in building that skill and position yourself for the future.
Okay. I think that's just about our time today. Thank you so much again, Elena, and thank you to everyone for hopping on this webcast. I know it was great seeing not only your profile, but also going through Margarita's profile as well. Um, so before we conclude, I just want to thank you again, everyone, for choosing to spend your time with us today. I hope you found the insights valuable. If you're not yet already a member of RAPS, I encourage you to learn more, consider joining. You can learn more about RAPS at www.raps.org. With that said, this website is concluded. You'll receive an email soon after with a link to the recording that will be posted in the learning portal as well. Thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.